There are nights you forget, and nights you remember forever. Not because something wonderful happened, but because something in the air warned you that the world you know is thinner than you think. That night, the one I'm about to tell you about, didn't begin with thunder or storms. No flickering lights, no eerie music swelling in the background. Just a quiet, heavy darkness settling over my house like a thick blanket. The kind of darkness that feels aware of you, like it watches you settle into bed and waits. I worked late, finishing tasks I should have done hours earlier. By the time I finally crawled into bed, it was past 1 a.m. My eyelids burned with exhaustion. My mind buzzed with the leftover static of a long, annoying day. I switched off the bedside lamp. A soft click, then complete darkness. Immediately, something felt wrong. Not danger, not fear, just a subtle instinct of tension, like stepping into a room where someone had been arguing moments before. An emotional residue hanging in the air. I tried to brush it off. I pulled the blanket up, adjusted my pillow, and let my body sink into the mattress. But the darkness pressed against me, thick and unmoving. It was too quiet. The heater usually hummed at night. A constant background sound, comforting, almost like a heartbeat. Tonight it was silent. No cars outside, no wind tapping the gutters. Just an emptiness so complete it made my ears ring. Still, I closed my eyes, told myself I was imagining it, told myself I needed sleep more than anything. I think I drifted off. I must have, because the next thing I remember is waking up with that electric jolting awareness you get when something pulls you out of sleep. I lay there tense, unsure what had woken me. The room was darker than before, colder too, as if something had sucked the warmth out of the air. I waited, listened. At first nothing, just that oppressive silence. Then, soft tap, a single sharp sound against the window. I didn't react, didn't move a muscle. My brain scrambled to make excuses. Maybe a branch, but there were no trees near that wall. Maybe a bird, but at this hour? Before I could finish the thought, another tap, slightly louder. Tap, tap, slow, measured, like someone gently wrapping their fingernail against the glass. A cold ripple went through me. I lay perfectly still, my eyes fixed on the ceiling, terrified that turning my head toward the window would mean seeing something I could never forget. Tap, tap, tap. Each sound was spaced just far enough apart to make it intentional. Not random, not accidental. Someone or something wanted me to know it was there. My breath caught in my throat. I swallowed quietly, trying not to make a sound. Then, a whisper. So soft, I thought at first it was inside my head, but no, it came from the glass, from the window. I know you're awake. My blood went cold. Quiet, shaken voice. For a long moment, I couldn't move. The whisper wasn't loud. If anything, it was barely more than breath against the glass. But it carried a certainty that froze every muscle in my body. Someone was at my window, on the second floor, at 2 a.m. I forced myself to breathe slowly, quietly. My heart hammered so violently, I worried whoever, whatever, was out there would hear it. Another whisper followed, this time lower, almost playful. You don't have to look. I already see you. A chill crawled down my spine, settling deep in my stomach. I clenched my jaw, trying to steady my thoughts. This couldn't be real. There was no ledge outside my window, no balcony, no tree branches long enough to reach it. There was no way for anyone to be there. Yet the tapping came again, slow, patient, deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. The sound was too distinct, too precise to be anything but fingers. I squeezed my eyes shut, as if that would somehow block out the reality outside the window. But the darkness pressed closer, heavier, almost suffocating as the presence on the other side of the glass waited. Soft breath, I finally gathered enough courage to shift my hand toward my phone on the nightstand. My fingers brushed the screen and froze. If I turned it on, the light would give me away, would confirm that I was awake, that I heard it. And somehow I knew, the thing outside the window wanted that. I pulled my hand back slowly, very slowly. Even the rustle of fabric felt dangerously loud in the silence. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then something changed. Not a sound, not a movement. A feeling, a presence leaning closer to the glass, as if pressing its face against it. The next whisper was clearer, closer, too close. "Why don't you open the curtains?" My pulse spiked so hard, I felt dizzy. The curtains, they were thin, a pale, worn fabric that blocked the moonlight, but not shapes. If something was right against the window, it could probably see the outline of my body under the blanket. I realized that's what it meant. It could see me, even if I couldn't see it. For a moment, I thought about running, jumping out of bed, sprinting to the hallway, turning on every light. But fear held me down, pinning me to the mattress like a heavy hand. What if the moment my feet touched the floor, it reacted? What if it moved? What if it came inside? So I stayed frozen, barely breathing, waiting for the tapping to start again, but it didn't. Instead, something scraped the glass, slowly, long, a dragging sound, like a nail sliding across a surface it wasn't supposed to touch. Shh! The noise grated through me, sharp as a blade. It stopped as abruptly as it began. Then the whisper returned, soft, coaxing. "Just look." I clenched my fists under the blanket, nails digging into my palms. The temptation to turn my head, to glance at the curtains, was horrifyingly strong. Not out of curiosity, but because the voice felt like it was pulling at me, as if each word hooked into something behind my eyes. "Look." The voice grew smoother, sliding through the dark, like a hand brushing over silk. "I've been waiting." My lips trembled. I bit down hard to stop the sound. Every instinct screamed at me to stay still, stay silent. But then, sharp shift of tone. A sudden thud hit the window, loud enough to shake the frame. I flinched involuntarily. The voice dropped its softness. "Don't ignore me." My breath shuddered out. I felt the cold sweat bead across my forehead. Something scraped the glass again, faster, agitated. Shudder, shudder, shudder. The pressure behind the curtains shifted. Whatever was outside moved, its shape passing across the window in a way that made my stomach twist. It was tall, too tall. I felt the air in the room grow colder, like the thing outside was drawn in all the warmth. Then everything stopped. Silence. Stillness. A void so complete it roared in my ears. I didn't dare breathe, and in that unbearable silence, a final whisper slipped through the glass, low and certain. "You will look." The moment that final whisper faded, the room felt impossibly still, as if even the air was afraid to move. I lay there, frozen under the blankets, listening for anything, a breath, a scrape, a shift of weight outside the window. But there was nothing. Nothing except my heartbeat pounding so loud, it felt like it was shaking my ribs. Seconds dragged by, or minutes, I couldn't tell. Time stretched unnaturally, warping around the dread thickening in my chest. Had it left? Was it still there, waiting? Was it watching me through the thin fabric of the curtains? I didn't know, and not knowing was somehow worse. I swallowed hard and forced myself to think. Logically, rationally. Someone on the second floor, tapping on my window, whispering through the glass? Impossible. And yet, I had heard it, clearer than any dream, closer than any person had the right to be. The moment that final whisper faded, the room felt impossibly still, as if even the air was afraid to move. I lay there, frozen under the blankets, listening for anything. A breath, a scrape, a shift of weight outside the window. But there was nothing. Nothing except my heartbeat pounding so loud, it felt like it was shaking my ribs. Seconds dragged by, or minutes, I couldn't tell. Time stretched unnaturally, warping around the dread thickening in my chest. Had it left? Was it still there, waiting? Was it watching me through the thin fabric of the curtains? I didn't know, and not knowing was somehow worse. I swallowed hard and forced myself to think. logically, rationally. Someone on the second floor, tapping on my window, whispering through the glass. Impossible. And yet, I had heard it clearer than any dream, closer than any person had the right to be. That whisper at the door. It didn't sound like it came through wood. It sounded like it came through a crack, like the thing outside was speaking through whatever space it could find, as if it was already attempting to flip in. I backed away slowly, one shaking step at a time. My eyes stayed locked on the bottom of the door, on that thin sliver of darkness between the wood and the floor. For several long seconds, nothing moved. Then, a shadow. Not the soft cut cast by lights, not a trick of the eye. A solid, defined shape slid across the gap beneath the door, blocking out the faint light behind it. I choked on my breath and stumbled farther back. The shadow stopped. It didn't inch forward, didn't retreat. It simply waited, as though the thing outside was listening. I could hear its breathing now. Not muffled by glass, not distorted by distance, but close, right against the door. Deep, slow inhales, raspy exhales, each breath scraping the silence like sandpaper. I clamped a hand over my mouth to keep from gasping. The house felt wrong. Not just the room, all of it. Every light was off. Every corner felt full, like the darkness was no longer empty but occupied. I stepped backward until my spine hit the opposite wall. The cold plaster pressed against my back. The shadow under the door shifted again, and then, very softly, fingertips began to brush along the door's edge. Not knocking, not scratching, searching. Slow, dragging touches slid along the wood, moving from the bottom of the door to the side to the handle. I held my breath so long my lungs burned. The handle twitched, just a tiny movement, barely more than a tremor, but it was enough to make terror surge up my throat like a scream I couldn't release. The handle twitched again, then began to turn slowly. Metal creaked. I pushed myself deeper into the wall, wishing I could disappear inside it. The handle rotated further, a careful, deliberate motion, like the thing behind the door was savoring every second. I looked around desperately, searching for anything. A weapon, something heavy, anything to barricade the door. The hallway was empty, just a stretch of darkness leading to the living room, and the handle kept turning. Click. It didn't fully open, but that single mechanical sound echoed through the silence like a scream. Then, why run? The whisper came from right beside the doorframe, as if the thing had pressed its mouth directly against the wood. I'd only want you to see me. A cold wave washed down my back. Its voice had changed. It wasn't coaxing anymore. It wasn't playful. It sounded impatient, hungry. I forced myself to move, not toward the door, but down the hallway. One step, another. I tried to stay quiet, though my foot hit a loose floorboard. Crack. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Behind me, something reacted. The handle snapped back violently. A heavy weight slammed into the door, making it shake in its frame. Thud. I stumbled forward. Another impact hit harder this time. Thud, thud. The third hit nearly blew the door open. I ran. Pure instinct. No thought. No plan. Just raw terror, propelling me down the hallway toward the stairs. Behind me, I heard the door frame splinter. Crack. Snap. Whatever was outside wasn't tapping anymore. It wasn't whispering. It wasn't coaxing. It was breaking in. I reached the top of the stairs, grabbed the railing, and fled downward so fast I nearly tripped. The house groaned under the force of whatever was forcing its way out of my room. I didn't look back. Couldn't. Every step sounded like it echoed through a dead world. I hit the bottom floor, grabbed the front door handle, and froze. The house went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silence that means something is standing very, very still. Listening. Waiting. I turned my head slowly toward the stairs, and at the top of them, in the darkness, I saw a shape. Tall. Still. Wrong. A silhouette that didn't match the height of a normal person. Its outline bent in places where a spine shouldn't bend. Its head tilted unnaturally to one side, as if trying to see me from a better angle. I couldn't make out its features. The darkness clung to it, thick and oily, refusing to reveal its face. But I saw its eyes, not glowing, not bright, just two pale reflective spots, like the faintest shimmer of moonlight in deep water, focused entirely on me. The thing didn't move. It didn't breathe. It just watched. And then, in a voice that somehow reached me from across the house, soft, distant, but unmistakably clear, it whispered, "I knew you'd run."